What is up, everyone, and welcome back to some more F1 25 My Team Career Mode. When I left you guys last time, we had done all of the admin-y bits to get the team set up. We made the car livery, we sorted out the team badge, we sorted out all the sponsors, we got our engine supplier, our two drivers for our team this season, and then we did a few facility upgrades, a few pieces of research, but we've yet to get any upgrades on the car as of yet. Our first race of the season is, of course, going to be the Australian Grand Prix at the wonderful Albert Park circuit. But before I do that, we do have the small matter of sorting out the tyre allocation. Now, for those of you that don't know, I am a controller user, and for that reason, especially with doing 100% distance races, I am going to do pretty much every race weekend with the harder tyre allocation, unless otherwise. I feel like most races are going to lend themselves to basically spending as much time as I can on the hard compound of tyre, but we will see exactly what that looks like in reality. Maybe as time goes on, you know, we get a few tyre wear upgrades, things won't be so bad, but certainly for the first race weekend, I will be hopping on to those hard compound tyres. So, without further ado, let's get ourselves into the first race weekend of the season. So, it's the first race weekend of the season, and this is a brand new feature in this year's game that I was aware of, which is that you now get to choose which driver you want to drive as, and the choices are either my boy Paul Aaron or our marquee driver Zach O'Sullivan. Now, just simply looking at the ratings, at the moment, I think Zach O'Sullivan is going to be the one that needs a little bit of help from us in order to achieve his full potential. Obviously, Paul Aaron, compared to most of the other drivers on the grid, is also not fantastic at the moment, but we are going to go with Zach for the time being. Now, we've just gotten into the workstation, and the first curveball of the season has arrived. It looks like it is going to be a wet race. We will have a look at exactly what that means in a second as we get into our messages. So, we've got a welcome message from Mark that's been forwarded on from me to Zach O'Sullivan, apparently. There are no new upgrades on the car for this weekend. That's fine. Weekend preview is all the same. And then weather forecast. It looks like it's going to be a fully wet race. Not just a little bit of rain and then maybe it dries up a little bit later. It looks like it's going to be wet throughout. And it's based on the percentages, it's looking like it might even be full wet for the entire race as well. So we are looking like we're going to have to compromise our qualifying a little bit to ensure that we get a wet setup on the car. So that would be interesting to see how that goes, especially because by the looks of things, I am not going to get any running done on those wet compound tyres until the race. Everything else looks like it's going to be completely dry. So that is going to be really, really interesting. Now, just for complete transparency, I'll just show you quickly. We are currently on 100 AI difficulty. That's usually the benchmark where I sort of start things. If it turns out to be too difficult, then obviously as time goes on, we'll bump that up. The way that we've usually done this in years gone by is if I outperform where I'm supposed to finish, then we will bump up the difficulty. And if I underperform, then we will decrease the difficulty. And if I have a race where I sort of perform about where I would expect, then we will obviously keep the difficulty as it is, because that means it's probably in the right position. So I am going to go away. I'm going to do a little bit of practice. And then when I come back, we will get into the qualifying sessions. Well, it was a successful practice sessions, as in P1 I actually went second fastest to Zach O'Sullivan, which I was quite impressed with. I think perhaps I've got a little bit of a handle on the battery management and that kind of thing around this circuit, but I am not particularly optimistic that that pace that I had in practice is going to qualify, or is going to translate over into qualifying. So I think for qualifying, I'm just looking at targeting maybe P19 or something like that. As long as we're not on the back row of the grid, I think I'll be happy. But I think P19 is going to be the target for us here in qualifying, and we'll see if we can do any better than that at all. But yeah, for now, it is time for us to get into qualifying, and we will see how things go in our first competitive session as a Formula One team. Right then, so here we are on our first competitive lap of the season. and we're going to see if we can do anything particularly impressive, pull up any trees in qualifying. I am not 100% convinced that we're going to make it out of Q1, but that would be an absolutely amazing start. I think, honestly, if we can even get close to making it out of Q1, that would be just like the best way to start the season. At the moment, you can see Paul Aaron has set the slowest time of the session. I think that's to be expected generally. I'll be quite surprised if the non-player controlled driver can finish anywhere other than dead last in any of the first few sessions that we do. But so far, we're looking good as we make our way through Sector 2 now. And at the end of Sector 2, you can see we've actually done a purple middle sector. Now, I was a little bit skeptical of that because obviously purple sectors in this game historically have been a little bit buggy. Sometimes it tells you you've done a purple sector when you actually haven't. So I wasn't 100% convinced that that was actually going to be a purple sector. But as we make our way now round the final couple of corners, you can see that the time that I'm on course to do is definitely going to be faster than some of these guys. Like, I think I'm going to be well above a 120 here, which is the time that Colapinto's done there. So as we come to the line, it's a 118.2, and it's good enough for P2. And I kind of expected that, you know, the cars around me were going to make some improvements as the session went on. But we also were making improvements, obviously. And as we round the final few corners once again, you can see we're a couple tenths up on our fastest time, somewhere between 2 and 3 tenths. So as we make a run to the line, it is going to be a 118.0, and that was good enough in Q1 for P1, which was a massive surprise. Well, I have to say this particular result was a little bit unexpected, as in Q1 we appear to have finished P1. I'm not quite sure how this has happened, but we were 1/10 of a second faster than Lando Norris, and basically nobody else was even close. So I'm feeling like the difficulty already needs to come up a little bit. I kind of thought 100 would be fine, given that that's the difficulty we typically have played on in years gone by. But yeah, I mean, we have absolutely smashed the field there. Let's have a quick look at who has been eliminated. I'm assuming Paul Aaron is one of them. Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, Esteban Ocon, Gabriel Bortoleto, Oliver Behrman, and Paul Aaron 3 seconds off of me. I mean, if this is what equal machinery is looking like, that's slightly concerning to me. Because I know that in F1 games, difficulty typically correlates to one difficulty point is roughly 1/10 of a second. That means that even on 110, I would be about 1.8 seconds faster than Paul Aaron, which is a little bit worrying if that's going to be the case. So we'll see how we go. I'm going to operate under my usual rules for now, and we will go from there. If things get way too easy, then we obviously will make some adjustments a little bit earlier than we should have done. But yeah, for now we'll keep going as we are. I really sincerely doubt that we are going to we're going to be P1 come the end of Q2 and Q3. So yeah, we'll see how things go with those as we get ourselves now into Q2. So here we are on track in Q2. And you can see that, again, we were doing some very fast sectors on our first flying lap. This is on a used set of soft compound tyres, as per usual. We do our Q1 on 2 sets of fresh tyres, and then we do used fresh for Q2 and Q3, should we make it that far. So this was a 119.0, not too concerning because, like I said, it was on a used set. It actually would have been good enough to see us through in P9. However, I did go out on a fresh set of softs again, and you can see that we are making a massive improvement, almost 1 second. I think we are going to just about reach 1 second as we come to the line, and that is going to be another 118.0, which this time was good enough for P2. So things are looking really, really good for us right now. Well, we managed to produce a very similar lap time to the lap that we produced in Q1. This time only good enough for P2. Lando Norris just beating us out 65 thousandths of a second faster, but we're still significantly faster than pretty much everybody else around us. Knocked out in this session were the 2 Aston Martins of Stroll and Alonso, as well as Alex Albon, Franco Colapinto, Antonelli in P15, which, I mean, I guess that is around where he qualified in the Australian Grand Prix last year, so maybe that is accurate. And then Isaac Hadjar in the V-Carb. So we do actually have an Alpine going through to Q2, as well as a Sauber as well. So a few surprise surprise entrance there in Q2, or sorry, in Q3, I should say. And speaking of, we will see now if we can reproduce the times we've been doing in Q1 and Q2 in Q3. And I mean, at the rate we're going, we're going to end up on the front row of the grid, which would be, I don't want to say farcical, but certainly I don't think it would be representative of what it would actually be like if our team suddenly cropped up on the grid with absolutely no resources, no funding, no upgrades, no nothing. I don't think we would be fighting right at the front. So with that in mind, let's get into Q3 and see if we can get ourselves on the front row of the grid. Right then, here we are for our final qualifying session at the Australian Grand Prix. Once again on a used set of soft compound tyres for this run. And once again doing a green first sector, purple middle sector. It's a 118.5 on used softs, which I actually was very impressed with. So it's looking like we might be able to just about dip into the 117s here today, if I can get a good lap hooked up. But you can see that I'm only sort of about 2 or 3 tenths up coming into the final sector on my final run on a set of fresh soft compound tyres. However, generally I would say that sector 3 is the part of the track where you can make up the most time, especially considering that you've got nearly 2 lap old softs by the time you get around there on a used set. So you can see that I made up so much time through that final sector, and now we're over 6 tenths up. So as we come to the line, I think that was a 117.8, and that was good enough in the end for P3. So not quite on the front row of the grid, but honestly, I think we could be pretty happy with that performance.
Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
Well, in the end, we couldn't quite manage the front row of the grid, but I still think that is a very admirable performance in our first ever qualifying session of the year, of our team's history, in fact. We finished P1 in Q1, P2 in Q2, P3 in Q3. Thank God there are not 22 qualifying sessions. So it is Lando Norris who ends up taking pole. It's a McLaren 1-2 as Oscar Piastri joins him on the front row. But Max Verstappen has fallen adrift of the front 2 McLarens with myself splitting them. And then for the rest of the top 10, we have Leclerc in 5th, Russell in 6th, Hamilton 7th, Tsunoda 8th, Gasly and Hulkenberg rounding out the top 10. I do think that at the very least we are going to come under pressure from Verstappen, Leclerc and Russell as the race goes on, and maybe Hamilton, Tsunoda as well. So I think a reasonable target for tomorrow's race is going to probably be P8, maybe P9 if Antonelli comes through the field. But yeah, I mean, we will obviously see what the situation is going to be like as we actually get into the race. I could have absolutely no pace. Remember, it is going to be a fully wet race, which is perhaps a bit of a saving grace for me because I think the tyres got a little bit messed up when I was doing the tyre allocation. But I mean, initially my target for the race was going to be P17. We may have to adjust that, but I think regardless, if I finish ahead of P17 in the race, we will bump up the difficulty for the following race. So yeah, without further ado, let's get ourselves into the Australian Grand Prix.
The winter is over. It's time for Formula 1 2025. Yes, that long break that you've all been coping with so well can now be put to the back of your minds. It's on-track action and it's off-track drama. That's what we're looking forward to. We're a stone's throw from the enormous Port Phillip Bay for today's race at the 3.28-mile Albert Park circuit. It's a bumpy racing surface here, and the 14 corners could prove especially difficult in the wet conditions. So watch out for a safety car at some point during this Grand Prix. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have O'Sullivan, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Russell, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Gasly and Nico Hulkenberg, Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon and Colapinto, Antonelli, Hadjar, Carlos Sainz and Liam Lawson, Ocon, Bortoletto, Behrman and Paul Aron rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And alongside me in the commentary box today, former racing driver herself, Naomi Schiff. New season, new dawn, and now 22 cars and 11 teams on the grid.
First of all, this is such an exciting time. I mean, to have an 11th team on the grid is exciting news for the sport. But for them today, I guess you would be really nervous. It's the first time you're going to be doing this. There is so much to learn. But at the end of the day, they've got to remember that expectations aren't that high. They've all been there before. They've all had their first race, and no one is expecting them to land on the top of the podium. So just learn to walk before you can run.
Well, they say that nobody's expecting us to land on the first step of the podium, but I mean, look at where we are in qualifying. I don't think it's completely out of the question. Now, the default strategy is a zero stop, just go the entire way on intermediate tyres. I think we are going to punt for the alternate strategy. I think a stop is going to be necessary in this race to get to the end with any kind of pace. This is historically how I've always done races like this, especially when you consider how bad the tyre wear actually is. In fact, they seem to think that, I don't know if it's because of how I did in practice or whatever, but they seem to think that the projected strategy is actually going to be a full 10 seconds faster than the default strategy. So we're going to go with that. I'm not going to play around with the fuel too much today because it's a wet race. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Typically, I do lose fuel throughout a race just because I'm quite aggressive on the throttle, so I wouldn't be surprised if that is a similar situation. And yeah, we will report back at the end of the race, and I will now let my commentary self take over for the remainder of the race. Okay then, so here we go, getting ready to start the formation lap, and it's not going to be long that we're going to be waiting on the grid on this formation lap. As you can see, Norris, Piastri, and then myself will be leading away in this race. I am very, very nervous about how this is going to go. I could see one of two things happening. I could see either the difficulty situation is far too low and we just kind of stay where we are, maybe even move forward. Or I could potentially even see a situation where the difficulty is actually about correct and we just absolutely sink like a stone in this race. And I really, really hope it is the former. As you see now, the lights come on and the lights go out. And it seems like we've had a pretty good getaway there. Norris moving very aggressively to the inside to cover off Piastri. Piastri has to try and move to the outside, but he can't go too far because around the outside we go of both drivers. I have no idea what those two McLarens were thinking there. Norris has just completely screwed over his teammate, and he's caused them both to lose positions as we move into P1 in this race. But what you can see is immediately I am struggling like crazy on these intermediate tyres. You can see how little grip I have. I'm just sliding through absolutely every corner at the moment, and on the exit of basically every corner, I cannot pat the power down early enough, and that is just bringing Norris and Piastri back into play. I don't think I'm going to be holding this lead for very long based on what I'm experiencing right now. And you can see that as we make our way through this long left-hander, Norris is closing down the gap quite significantly, but he can't close down quite enough. But look how slowly I'm going through these corners. I really just, I feel like I can brake fine, and that's not the issue. But as soon as I start turning into the corner, it just feels like I'm driving a boat almost. I just have absolutely no traction on the exit of the corners. And as soon as I put the power down, it just feels like the car goes absolutely nowhere. I feel like I'm getting loads and loads of wheel spin on the exit of basically every single corner. And I didn't really realise this at the time. It took me a few laps to realise it. But the more that I was doing that, the more I was lighting up those rear tyres and causing them to overheat quite significantly. So we do lead out of the first lap, but I don't know how much longer we are going to be in this privileged position to be, well, I guess leading a Formula 1 Grand Prix on our first ever race in Formula 1. Quite impressive. So you can see right now that we are just kind of casually holding on to P1. But as we make our way into the final straight section, you can see that we are coming under a bit of pressure here from Lando Norris. Is he going to look for a move around the outside? Not quite on this occasion. We do hold on to P1 for the time being, but I think it is going to be very difficult to stay in this position long term in this race as we move now on to lap 4. This is the part of the track where I am the most vulnerable. These guys have the overspeed on me. Even without DRS, you can see how much faster Lando Norris is, and he is going to make his way up into P1 now on lap 4, and that might be the last time that we lead a Formula 1 Grand Prix for quite some time. However, you thought I was slow through that sequence of corners. The AI appears to be even slower there, as Lando Norris is so slow through that corner, and that actually allows us, amazingly, to retake the lead, and we are back into P1 for the second time in this race, which I really have to admit was quite a shock to me when it happened. So as we make our way now into lap number 5, and we are just going to speed through a little bit more, you can see that the gap is staying pretty stable behind. You can see it's sort of ebbing and flowing as we make our way through the sort of the twistier sections with less long straights. Norris doesn't fall away a little bit, probably due to that dirty air. But as we make our way onto the straight section, or the long left-hander that you can just put your foot to the floor, you can see that Norris is coming through, and it looks like Piastri is going to have a look as well. Piastri can't quite get the move done on this occasion, but it has compromised our run a little bit, which means I think this time we are going to struggle to do what we did to Norris on the previous lap. And so Norris will retake the lead of the Australian Grand Prix, and now he is going to try and break away from me, which I think he is going to be very capable of doing. As we make our way onto lap 7 now, you can see already Norris has extended the gap out in front to 3 seconds. Oscar Piastri getting past us nice and quickly, almost closed the door on Max Verstappen as well by accident there, and you can just see how little power we have compared to the Mercedes engine of the McLarens and the Red Bull engine of the Red Bull. So we fall down for the time being off the podium places into P4, but we do make a overtake back on Max Verstappen to get ourselves back into P3. So it is a decent defense there, but I mean, really, like I said, I think we are going to start sinking through the field now a little bit. You can see already Oscar Piastri has pulled out a second on us, and it's just, once they get past us, it is absolutely impossible to stay with them. So I wouldn't be surprised now if Max Verstappen gets past us on this straight, and maybe we even come under a bit of pressure from the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc behind Max Verstappen as well. So Max Verstappen makes his way through, Lewis Hamilton looking for a way through as well. Hamilton can't quite get it done on this occasion as we close the door nicely, but you can see once again we just have absolutely no pace to contend with Max Verstappen here, and we are going to give up our position on the podium today. And now it is really just going to become a question of how much can we hold on to these positions, because I was initially thinking, oh well, you know, at least there's only sort of the Ferraris behind them. But the more that we battle with these guys, the more it's going to bring the cars behind into play. I think it's George Russell in P7 at the moment, and then, you know, you've got Hulkenberg in P8. So I'm thinking, if we were to fall down into P7, there is a chance that we don't fall too much further than that, as we came under a little bit of pressure from Lewis Hamilton there. I don't know if he's going to have another look into the next hard 90-degree right-hander. Not quite on this occasion, but yeah, I think it is only a matter of time before the Ferraris start getting ahead of us. And at some point soon, I imagine I am going to show you the situation with my tyres as well, because I was really struggling on the tyres at this point, as Lando Norris does a 130.6. Meanwhile, this lap for us is going to be in the high 132s, I think. So we are losing, what is that, like 2.5 seconds to the cars in front at the moment, as we come under a bit more pressure from Hamilton there. I am really struggling. I am a rolling roadblock in this race at this point, and you know, I think this is a lot more representative of what we were expecting. I don't know how much of it is due to the pace of the car and how much of it is due to struggling in the intermediate conditions, but you can see here the track is slightly dry, but not really dry enough to go on to slick tyres. But that is causing me to light up my rear tyres like crazy, and even my front left is taking a little bit of a beating around here. So what that means is I'm wearing out my tyres at a much faster rate than we would expect. And this was supposed to be a one-stop, stopping around lap 29. It's looking like I might have to turn this into a two-stop now. I came under a bit more pressure from Charles Leclerc into lap 12. And I think that we are probably looking at a 2-stop race now all of a sudden, which is not ideal, but I really just don't see a world in which we're going to be able to take these intermediate tyres all the way to lap 29. I think they're already on 37% on the rear left, yeah, so even if I were to hold on to these, I think lap 25 is going to be sort of my absolute maximum before we're getting into puncture territory. So we came under a bit more pressure there. I think that was from Lewis Hamilton on this occasion. I could be wrong, but he has now got ahead of Leclerc if not. So I am just defending for my life. I'm doing a pretty good job, to be honest. I was pretty happy with the defence I was putting up, but I think regardless of what happens here, we are going to be slightly screwed over by the fact that we are going to have to pit more than once, whereas I think these guys are doing at most a 1-stop. It was even suggesting that they might do a 0-stop at the beginning, so really just not convinced that we are going to have much of a horse in this race once you factor in the extra pit stop, as Lewis Hamilton puts us under pressure once again into lap 13, and now it is all about just maximising my pace rather than maximising my defence, because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter if I defend these positions if I'm going to give them up as a result of strategy anyway. So I just have to push as hard as I can as we make our way to the end of lap 14 now, and you can see 111 degrees on that rear left tyre. I mean, that is quite hot even for a slick tyre, never mind an intermediate tyre. We are really struggling with that rear left tyre. We're getting wheel spin on the exit of basically every single corner, and as we came under a little bit of pressure there once again from Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, you can see that it's just a situation where I feel completely powerless almost. At this point I was kind of having to adjust my driving style quite a little bit. I was almost playing like I was playing with traction control off. Those of you that know me know that I play with traction control on, and it would have been pretty obvious based on the way I was putting the power down on the exit of those corners. As you can see that Charles Leclerc is putting us under a lot of pressure, and eventually the garage did become aware of the fact that we were not really going to be doing anything on these intermediate compound tyres, so they said, yeah, you can come in at the end of next lap. But yeah, I was playing at this point like I was on no traction control. I was being so gentle on the throttle on the exit of every single corner. It was like I really just had to temper the throttle as much as I could to try and prevent that wheel spin, to try and cool the tyres down. But it was like no matter what I did, I just couldn't find myself in a situation where that was going to be possible. And I think, to be honest, what it came down to in the end, as we come into the pits now, what it came down to in the end was probably setup related, if I'm perfectly honest. I think it is likely due to the fact that we probably should have gone a little bit higher on the tyre pressure on those rear tyres. I think the tyre pressure on the front tyres was generally fine, but as we exit the pits, you can see now we have come out in plumb last, even behind our teammate Paul Aaron, who, I mean, look at him, he's making up the numbers, bless him. As we make our way onto lap 19, you can see once again the temperature has come into those rear tyres quite significantly, even though from the get-go this time I was trying my hardest not to push them too hard. You know, I was doing what I was doing towards the end of that first stint from the outset on this second stint, and still the rear tyres were getting lit up so much. I just needed to increase the pressure of those rears a little bit more than I ended up doing. Nonetheless, we're still in a position where we can make some moves as we go around the outside of our teammate there. Didn't fight that one too hard. Obviously, we're on opposing strategies here, but at the rate we're going, it's looking like he might be the only one. We move to the broadcast cameras now to have a look at Franco Colapinto in the Alpine. He is going to be the first retirement of this My Team career mode as he makes his way off the track there, and yeah, retiring with the first mechanical failure of the season. And you're going to see us making our way past him in a second to make our way up into P20 as we get past Franco Colapinto there. So yeah, disappointment for him, but it always had to happen to somebody. The question is that going to bring out any kind of safety car or virtual safety car? A safety car would be very good for us right now, because another thing that I haven't really talked about yet in this race that I was a bit concerned about, as the virtual safety car does come out, another thing I was concerned about that you'll see here, I basically immediately switch to the fuel part of my MFD and move into lean fuel mix while we're under the VSC. And that is because I was really struggling on the fuel. You know, I slightly overfueled the car, and still, as we made our way onto, what was that, lap 21, 22 roughly, I was almost under my allocation for fuel. So yeah, I was very concerned that we might actually not make it to the end on fuel. So from this point onwards, I'm doing a little bit of lifting and coasting as well to make sure that we can make it to the end on the fuel as well. As we have a look now, this is Nico Hulkenberg in the Kick Sauber. Only a couple laps later, this is on lap 23, so the Colapinto DNF was lap 21. Hulkenberg just 2 laps later is retiring on lap 23 with another, what looks like an engine failure there, and I don't know what impact that is going to have, as we are looking for a move now on Liam Lawson. But unfortunately, the virtual safety car just comes out at exactly the wrong time for us, which means we can't get ahead of Liam Lawson on lap 23, and we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to make our way past the New Zealander, as we just wait for the virtual safety car to make its way back. I was going to say back into the pits, but I guess that doesn't really apply to a virtual safety car, does it? As you wait for the virtual safety car to end, let's just say that, as we get now into a position which would be prime overtaking territory, but unfortunately I had to slow down a little bit there to avoid a drive-through penalty. It's something that I suffered in a recent league race, which has made me very on edge when it comes to virtual safety cars. So we're pretty close to Liam Lawson, but I'm not quite sure if we're close enough on this occasion to make our way past him, especially because we were fairly low on battery there. But we have a little bit more battery now to have a go at him on lap 25. Oliver Behrman's just in front of him as well, so it's looking like we could make up a couple of positions here. But we're going to have to start making our way through the field pretty quickly, because the tyre advantage that we have on these guys is going to slip away because we are pushing these tyres so much harder than they are. But we are really close to Liam Lawson now. A little bit of battery deployment there to just try and stay with him. And I think we're going to look for a move up the inside of Liam Lawson. We're going to squeeze him out wide a little bit and leave him just enough room on the track, and make our way into P18 in this race. So that is my first overtake on a driver who isn't my teammate of the season. I guess if you don't include what was happening with the drivers out in front on lap 1. And now we are going to look to get past Oliver Behrman here on lap 28. Can we make our way past the Haas driver? And you can just see how slow they are on the exit of that corner. It really brings me into the fold. That's like the only place on the track I think I'm faster than the AI generally, and that is going to allow us to look for a move late on the brakes. And once again, we do exactly what we did to Liam Lawson on the previous lap. It's looking like that corner is going to be my hunting ground for overtakes. I think that's where we got Paul Aaron as well, if I remember correctly. Make our way towards the end of lap 29 now, and you're going to start seeing that some cars are coming into the pit lane to switch on to another set of intermediate compound tyres. At that point, we actually did get a radio message about the rain, saying that it was going to be here for another 20 minutes. I think I kind of misinterpreted that at the time, because I thought that meant, oh, well, possibly we are going to be in a situation where the rain is going to go away towards the end of the race then. So I was very on edge with the radio messages. I was constantly asking for weather reports from pretty much this point onwards. But as we make our way towards the end of lap 30, we're going to see the rest of the cars who didn't box on the previous lap coming in. Bortoletto, Sainz, and a few others as well are in the pit lane that we're going to make our way past, including Kimi Antonelli, Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda just about as well. I think, unfortunately, a lot of this is a bit of a moot point, because we are still going to need to box again. You know, we've been on these tyres for 15 laps as we go over the track limits a little bit there. We've been on these tyres for 15 laps at this point, and you can see 41% on those rear left tyres, or the rear left tyre I should say. So I think at best we're making it to about lap 46 on these intermediate compound tyres. However, that is not going to be a particularly enjoyable experience, because we have much faster cars behind us at this point, including the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, who had a very strong qualifying performance, looking for a move around the outside of us. Can't quite pull it off on this occasion, but I think it is only going to be a matter of time before the Frenchman makes his way past us, and then we're going to be coming under pressure from the cars behind him as we make our way into the corner that we've enjoyed so much overtaking on so far this weekend. And now we make our way onto lap 34. I think once again here we're going to be coming under a little pressure from Pierre Gasly. 2/10 is the gap at the moment. Is he going to look for a move around the outside or up the inside, or is he going to just hang fire for a second? Doesn't go for it on this occasion, as we look to break away from him a little bit through that corner that we have been slightly stronger than the AI on pretty much all weekend. However, when they have the tyre advantage, that strength kind of goes away a little bit, and we get onto the grass a little bit there, and that just caused me to go in a little bit of a tailspin, which allows Gasly to make his way through. So a big mistake there, and that has enabled us, or has enabled Gasly rather, to overtake us and make his way into P7. And I don't think, unfortunately, we stand much of a chance of getting that position back. Like I said, a lot of this is very inconsequential because we still have to pit one more time. Looking at the fuel as well, you can see the situation is pretty dire there, only plus 0.08 as well. So I'm lifting and coasting into a lot of the corners. Came under a bit of pressure from Tsunoda there, but ultimately wasn't too concerned with that. And now we're just going to speed our way through lap 35 a little bit until we get onto the part of the track where I've been coming under so much pressure from the cars behind, and surely you should expect that Yuki Tsunoda is going to make his way past us into the fast left-right-hander, but actually he doesn't quite have enough overspeed on us. It's like, I don't know if the slipstream is very powerful here, because it seems like he's making his way upon us, like he's catching us quite a lot, but then he can't quite get the overtake done. It's like he doesn't quite have the speed to actually get the overtake done. So as we make our way towards the end of lap 36 now, you can see if you look in the bottom right hand corner that I'm assuming our rear left tyre has reached that 60% mark, which means that we are going to start running out of tyre performance very, very soon. And Yuki Tsunoda looking to capitalise on that as we make our way into lap 37. And at this point was the first time that I did ask what is the situation, and this is going to be a very telling answer, because he says he's not sure what's better. Is it the dries or is it the inters? And that has, I think, been the situation for basically the entire race, which means that when we get onto lap 41, I had a real question on my mind at this point. Do I actually risk it on a set of slick tyres? Because with how much I was overheating the intermediate tyres, I was thinking, well, there's a possibility then that maybe we are actually in the window for a set of slick tyres. Now, in the end, I wasn't quite brave enough to try that, and maybe I should have been, because I didn't really have a lot to lose at this point. You know, I was going to go down into P19 regardless, and definitely once I had that pit stop error. So there wasn't really a great deal to risk. There was a lot to gain and nothing much to venture on that pit stop. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a mistake there to not at least try some slick tyres, and then worst case scenario, I come into the pit lane and I finish P20 instead of P19. Best case scenario, I could have been bagging some points here. But as we make our way now onto lap 46, you can see that we are just fighting on these intermediate tyres nonetheless. I mean, the thing that kind of made me think, well, maybe I should stay on these intermediate tyres is the fact that I was in a position where I was sliding around so much on the intermediate tyres. I can only imagine how painful it would have been on those slick tyres. Like, I can't imagine we would have got much bite on those slick tyres. So as we made our way through lap 46 there, you could see the gap to Liam Lawson in front was coming down. But I really had to question, was it coming down fast enough to the point that we could actually get past the New Zealander before the end of the race? So I was really pushing quite hard, and obviously we had that tyre advantage on him. But at the same time, I couldn't guarantee that I was definitely going to catch him. As we make our way onto lap 51, you can see that the gap has gone down to 3 seconds now. So we've made up about a second per lap. However, as you know, obviously I wear out my tyres faster than the guys in front. I'm going to have that tyre advantage disappearing as the laps tick away. And you can see I haven't even made up a second on Liam Lawson on this lap. It's been more like maybe sort of 0.7 of a second there. So already the gap that I am making up is coming down. Not only that, but we have already been lapped by the first two cars. So we are in a situation where we have one less lap to catch him than we should do.
And then to make things even worse, I had to give up the position to Lando Norris, who was about to lap us as well. Remember, this is a man we were fighting for P1 earlier in the race. Now we're being lapped by him. And that has caused me to lose a couple seconds to Liam Lawson as well. So, yes, it is likely that Norris is going to catch Lawson as well, and that might slow him up. But as we made our way onto lap 56 here, you can see that we still are not within a 1 second gap of Liam Lawson, and perhaps this wasn't going to happen for us in this race. It was looking like a pretty much, a dead cert when we were earlier on in the race, because I was thinking, well, we're catching him by about a second a lap. Surely we will be with him by the end of the race, and maybe we could even think about overtaking Behrman again. But now, where we are in this race, I think we will be very lucky if we can even get past Lawson. We're within 1 second of him, but are we close enough to think about making a move? Especially with the fact that we're on worn tyres, we don't have very much fuel left as well, so we can't push super hard on the fuel, and pretty much any kind of tyre advantage we had on the car in front has been all but worn away at this point. So we're going to speed through what is going to be our final lap of the race, remember, because the leaders are on lap 58. And I was really starting to think that it was going to be P19 and P20 for Jaguar's first race in Formula 1, which, given where we qualified, P3 for Zach O'Sullivan, would be a real disappointment, to be honest. So as we made our way through these corners, you can see once again making up so much time in the cars in front. This just seems to be the corner where I gained so much, and now we're going to have to look for a very courageous move to the inside, dive up the inside of Liam Lawson, and we pull off the move with just a few corners to go. We will not be the wooden spoon holders of this race, as Oscar Piastri wins his home Grand Prix, so congratulations to him. And as we make our way now through the final couple of corners, it is going to be perhaps a little bit of a somber, but I mean, we have to remember where we are in the pack. Honestly, P18, it's not a bad result. Cross the line, and I think we can be okay with this. It's not what we would have wanted, especially having finished qualifying in P3. Pierre Gasly getting driver of the day there, and I think we now just need to build from that.
And it's the checkered flag for your Grand Prix race winner, Oscar Piastri.
Well, they kept us guessing during pre-season testing. We all wondered who it was going to be, and to have them drawn out here today, that they are the ones to beat, just goes to show that all the work they put in has really counted.
It's time for our podium celebrations. And as ever in Formula One, 3 is the magic number. They give out trophies for the winners. Today, they're Oscars. Your winner today, Oscar Piastri.
So perhaps breaking the curse a little bit there, Oscar Piastri making his way onto the top step of the podium. So not only on the podium, but in first place. He will be joined in second place by Max Verstappen, and in third it is Lando Norris. Myself as Zach O'Sullivan finishing P18, and our teammate Paul Aaron finishing in P20 here today. So a lot to build on for Jaguar Racing in our first race of the season.
And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, it wasn't quite the race we were hoping for in the end, but honestly, I think my performance there, given everything I was up against, was pretty admirable. That was absolute hell from pretty much lap 1, I would say. As soon as I realised how difficult it was going to be to get the power down in these tricky intermediate conditions, I knew we were going to be up against it, and I think we did pretty well to sort of battle with the Ferraris early doors. Obviously, I ended up having to take 2 stops there, and as a result, that really kind of ruined any hopes I would have had of fighting for points there potentially. I was glad to get Lawson on the final lap there, and well, in the end, it is P18, so it looks pretty bad on paper. Obviously, congratulations to Oscar Piastri and Verstappen and Norris finishing on the podium in this race. It looks pretty bad to go from P3 to P18, but honestly, the fact that we actually beat another driver on track in Liam Lawson, I think we can be pretty happy with our work there. I think a few extra laps and I might have started moving even further forward
through the field ahead of Behrman, Bortoletto, and maybe even more than that. But as things stand, P18, so we didn't quite meet that target of P17 I was looking for, so I will keep the difficulty the same. I did wonder if this would possibly be the case. But yeah, I'm really encouraged by what I saw in that race in terms of the pace that we were able to bring out. You know, if we look at my fastest lap overall, it's looking like we're going to be competitive with sort of, you know, perhaps the sort of Aston Martins and Gasly and the Alpine, that kind of thing. So I'm thinking that probably maybe sort of based on the pace I showed in this race, maybe P13 roughly is kind of where we'd be looking in most races. But we'll have to wait and see how things develop over the season. Obviously, every race is going to be different. But I will join you in a second when we kind of do the full race rundown, and obviously we'll get back into the team headquarters and do some upgrades and the like for the following race as well. So here we are back in the headquarters, and immediately our presence has been requested in the personnel facility. What would they like to say? A leading recruitment firm has approached us with an opportunity to enhance our personnel hiring efforts. This could help us attract top talent and strengthen our technical team, but it will require some investment. Our side. Oh, okay, actually that does make sense. I was expecting to say it will require some investment on our side, but that's fine. Should we move forward with the partnership? We could do with a boost to our hiring. We have more important things to focus on right now. 50k, let's send it. I'm sure we won't go over the cost cap. Right, we have a new thing in our messages. I wanted to update you on the race weekend. Both drivers finished the race, although not in point scoring positions. While it's not the result we aim for, it's important to recognise the reliability and effort shown by the team. Cars performed consistently, drivers demonstrated perseverance. We'll analyse the data to identify areas for improvement and work towards stronger finishes. This experience adds to our determination to enhance our performance and standings. Thank you for your continued support as we strive for better results. I honestly don't agree that it was a disappointing weekend. I think we did everything we could. We've had another improvement in our engineering facilities, so we can go for another facility upgrade. Meanwhile, in the research side of things, we can do some stuff. We don't have anything on the go at the moment because our reliability upgrade or our durability upgrade just finished. We've had quite a big discount to this one, so we shall upgrade this, which will be done in time for Japan, although obviously we need time to develop it as well. Then I still think our durability is the weakest aspect. Other than that, we don't have any discounts to any of this, so the question is, do we want to improve the durability of our ICE or our turbo? And I think we're going to go for turbo. And then I don't know if we're going to have enough to do anything else. We did get a discount to our aero, but not enough. And yeah, we didn't get enough of a discount to the engine power upgrade either. So we can't do anything else at the moment, but that is fine. On the development side of things, we can now begin manufacturing the gearbox upgrade as well. So we'll do that, and we'll be able to get that one of those on the car in time for Bahrain. So we'll start developing that as well. And I believe we started developing the chassis. Yep, 13 days remaining on that. So we won't have that in time for China, but that will come in at some point. Apparently there's something else we can... Oh, did I not start that? Standard... Okay, there we go. Now that has been started. Okay, right. Facility improvements, because we have some room to do that. So improved comms development is what we're going to go for next. Corporate, is that finished as well? Okay, so we can do a corporate upgrade. What's the cheapest thing we got here with this one? Outreach group. Increase the chance of signing new secondary sponsors via the sponsor discovery activity by 10%. Sure, we'll go for that then. So that's in process. And is anything in progress here? I don't think so. Okay, let's go for personnel liaisons then. That's the cheapest. And that is going to increase the amount of owner XP you receive from actions taken in personnel by 10%. Right, anything else that we have to look at the moment? I don't believe so. Let's schedule some activities pre-Grand Prix weekend, although there isn't much time. We can't do anything here, or here, or here. We can do something in corporate, though. Should we do a sponsor discovery short or a fan rating boost? I think we should look for more sponsors, if I'm honest. And then we'll advance some time.
Right, that's
Chief,
finished.
I must remind you that we have parts fully researched that are waiting for development. Let's get that performance on the car.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it, Mathis. Yeah. 10 days left on the plank. 18 days left on the gearbox. And then obviously we need to develop another one of those for when those are finished. But for now, that is everything that we can do before the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like and subscribe. I hope you enjoy the sort of new style that we're doing. I know it's somewhat similar to the old one, but there's a few changes, so let me know how you like it. And hopefully I will see you guys for the next one.